Hey, good morning, everybody. Good morning, Heather. I am so happy to be back here at home doing the show. As nice as it was to do it from the road, there's just something about the comforts of home. Like,
It,
I don't know how to explain it. I'm so happy to be back. I'm so happy to
it's
be back.
so true. It's so true. And travel can be stressful, right? You gotta get from one place to the other. You gotta go through airport security. There's a price to pay for traveling and seeing the whole world for sure.
Yeah, no, it's yeah, no, I listen, I'm good. Actually, I'm really good with the cold now. So being, where I was in Portugal for the last couple of days, it's the weather here doesn't bother me as much anymore. So I'm like, yes. It's a win for me. So,
Interesting.
well,
I
well,
love
so
that.
no, let me put some context around it. So it is cold in Portugal, right? This time of year, it's about mid-teens, and it'll drop just below the teens into 5, 6 degrees. So it never goes to like freezing. But when you walk into places, they don't have the same heating ventilation systems that we have here. So it's not like you go from like minus 20 to 21 degrees Celsius, because that doesn't, depending on the places that you go into. The places I went into, I stayed in a farmhouse. Essentially, that's what it's called, farmhouse, with no heating and air. Like how they heat their homes are with these fireplaces.
Mm.
And so there's one room in the home that's really warm, and then the rest is you got to put like 5 sheets on top so you can get some good sleep, right? So coming back here, I'm inside my house. It's an even 21, 22 degrees. It's perfect. Like, I don't worry about the cold anymore. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but it's not, our cold here too is dry, right? And
It's
their cold
drier, yeah.
is damp. It's like there's a lot of humidity. Like, you wake up, your stuff's wet. That's how much humidity is in the air, right? So I'm so happy to be back to like just minus 20. I'm okay with that because inside my house is 21 degrees, right? So it's perfect. So good. And good
You,
morning, Gunjin.
you bring up a point, and I recognize this too when I travel. The comforts of home, the I'll call them luxuries because a good portion of the
Mm,
world do not have things like a thermostat to make sure that your house always stays at 21, and air conditioning, and these are real luxuries that you only have a thought about them because at home it's just mine's a digital thermostat. I just turn it on and it's got a program to it, and I never think about it. And many people are not like that. And I know traveling to countries where even laundry, like, when can we do our laundry? And it's like, well, maybe you don't have to do your laundry every day. Maybe you can just do your laundry. Maybe you can wear your clothes like 4 times before you have to launder them, right?
what a crazy idea.
It's crazy. Anyways, but John, you had a little mishap in your luggage, and I think there's a fun story around
Oh
what
yeah.
spilled.
I don't know if it's so fun. I finally got the smell out of everything. So my grandfather, so my dad's dad, he lived in the outskirts. He was in the farm, I call it the boonies, of the major city of Porto. And I think it's about an hour and a half to 2 hours away, which is, for there, that's a long way because you can pretty much get anywhere in the city in like 20 minutes if you take the right road. You can also go in a loop for 20 minutes trying to find parking. So what I ended up bringing, so what they did back then is they made everything themselves, right? Like, they had their own food, they had their own, they had their own livestock, they raised, like, everything essentially was organic, what we would call organic, because they raised it themselves. So one of the things he did was he made wine and he made moonshine. In Portuguese, it's called aguardente. So there was a collection in the apartment that I was cleaning out of these bottles of aguardente from 1996. So I brought one of these bottles back, but they're not sealed properly, right? Like, the cork is, they're homemade, like, they're done at home. They're whatever you can fashion a cork out of, you just kind of stick it in the bottle, and that kind of keeps the bottle, the liquor preserved. I put this in my luggage and I wrapped it up in my clothes. And with the pressure in the plane, it leaked. I know you're laughing, but I don't know if you know what moonshine smells like, but um, it's a
So it'll clear
very
your
strong,
sinuses.
yeah, clearly it would definitely clear your sinuses. So, in my luggage, I wanted to bring back this bottle as a memory of my grandfather who made this himself, right? Like this is something he did at home. So I wanted to bring a memory of that. And it just happened that some of it actually spilt into like my clothes and yeah. So I've been kind of dealing with that this week. But I'm not upset about it because I know what it represents and I know what it means. And it's really a piece of history, right? So even if I never drink from this bottle, right, which I might never do, it's a piece of history that I have of my lineage, right? Like this is my grandfather made this in his farmhouse in the boons, many, many, many years ago. So I'm
He
just
made it
happy
with
to
his
have that.
hands. He made
He made it with his
you could
hands.
visualize. And how many of the things that we consume or use today can we visualize who made it and where it came from? We don't even know the origin of it. So your choice whether you're going to drink it or not, but he made it to be drunk. He did make it for that purpose. So
Yeah.
I feel like that needs to be a sip at least.
Yeah, so this actually brings another point, and I don't know if I shared this with you. I shared this with somebody, but I said I was going to start drinking more this year.
Yeah,
it was you.
You said that to me.
So let me preface this. So before everybody goes out and thinks I'm an alcoholic, how I want to preface this is my dad was a big collector of bottles, right? Like he collected all these fancy port wines, these whiskeys, these brandies, and all these bottles that he had on the shelf. And beautiful bottles, some of them 20, 30 years old, like just, he never touched them, right? Like they were fancy. They were, in Portuguese, they call it chic, right? Like everything was chic. So because they were chic and expensive, he didn't drink them. And, what I realized is you can't hold off to tomorrow what you can do today because those bottles, he never got to enjoy them. Mm-hmm. Right. And it's a reminder, I think, for all of us, when we have the things that are in front of us, make use of them, right? Like, Gabby, my good friend Gabby, she's got this fantastic speech where she talks about the linens and the plates her mother has at home where, you don't put out the fancy stuff, right? Like you save the fancy stuff for only really, 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 really special occasions. And the truth is just use it every day. Who cares, right? Like just, why wait? Because that day might come where you might not be able to enjoy it anymore. And that means somebody else is going to enjoy it on your behalf, right?
100%.
So enjoy yourself. If you put in the work, you have the things that you have, use them.
When I was growing up, right? John, my mom we had plate settings that were the fancy plate settings, and we were only allowed to use them at Christmas. And I don't remember using it very often because the kids weren't allowed to use those plates. And they were like really in my mom's mind, they were really expensive. And that caused her to be extra careful, but also only use them once a year. Well, think about the cost per use for once a year plate when they're that expensive. And, now my mom's gone and, at Christmas time, we pull out these plates and this is what we use. So the lineage has continued on, but it's like, yeah, just use the plates. Now, these are a bit of a pain in the ass because you can't put them in the dishwasher because they got metal, and you can't put them in the microwave because they got metal on them and stuff. So they're a hand wash only, but come on, like that's just a small thing. But now I'm like, and I'll tell you, my mom's voice comes in my head, like, be careful with the plate, don't and like I hear her voice while I eat on this plate. So stop putting these rules around our lives. Just use the stuff and enjoy it, and because like you said, John, we're talking about people that have left this earth, but they haven't left our heart, and they didn't get to enjoy life that we see as full loving life because they have these beliefs. So what are beliefs that are stopping you from enjoying everything that you deserve to have in life? My parents didn't travel because they didn't think that they deserved it, that they could afford it. And I remember the last years of their life, we took them to Mexico, and they didn't even bring the proper sunscreen. Like I felt like I was taking care of my children. Like it was pretty crazy. And I'm sure there's other people out there that have parents that you can relate to this, but, and it's just because they didn't travel properly. And of course my mom got all her stuff confiscated at the security because she put it in the wrong buckets. But That's a whole nother story. That's a whole nother story.
I
But
love it. Love it. Love
John,
it. No, so
oh, go ahead.
yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Go
I
ahead.
was just going to pivot on us because I've been having a lot of conversations this week around mental health and just friends or people, acquaintances that just aren't feeling their best selves these days. And if that talks to you, for any of our listeners, this is completely normal. This is the time of year that this is exactly how many people feel, but it doesn't have to be that way, or we can recognize it and actually reach out for help. And so I don't know, John, if the same thing's happening in your circles, but I think it's something that we often just, we keep to our closest friend, or, we tell one person. And so I want to be out there telling everyone that, this isn't okay to have this conversation.
Yeah. No, and so as you were saying that, the one thing that's been popping to mind is this video with Tom Hanks. And in the video, he talks about this too shall pass, right? So we are going through a moment where it feels tough, right? Like it feels like the winter blues. Like we're into January. We're almost at the end of January, which means we're getting closer to spring, which is fantastic. But it's tough, right? So what I loved about what we just did here is we brought up memories, right? One of the tools that we use as neurolinguistic programming practitioners is we bring back moments that bring us joy. And just having that thought of what we just did, talking about our lineage, our history, like, I don't know about you, but I feel uplifted right now, right? Like I feel like, I can feel good just thinking about, my grandfather and what he did and working on the farm and all this stuff and preserving and doing all these things. That's all it takes, is having that moment, having that memory to bring you back to a place where you start to feel that joy again. And yes, you know what, there are, right now it's difficult for some, right? Some people are just trying to figure things out. Some people are working through what's going on, whether it's work wise, personally, whatever is happening. You can always step into, what, I need a little bit of joy today, so let's think about a moment that was joyful. And I love that as a tool for us, right? Like, I know it's one of the things that we use. Janice just dropped in something as well. She's like, found a great app, Insight Timer, that has a lot of great features to meditate, breathe, and journal. Nice.
I love it.
Those at work too. Yeah. So it's really around.
John, I want to talk about, like, because I love this process, and people might be like, well, how do I do that? How do I go that? And here's the fun stuff, is that your brain has all the images to create whatever it is that's already happened in your past, and also to create what's in your future. But when we create these images, and if I just use your example of your grandfather, John, making that moonshine, if you stepped into him making the moonshine, thought about what the world looked through his eyes, making this moonshine, what would be the message he would send you right now about drinking or not drinking that moonshine?
Well, he would tell me to be careful, that's for sure.
He said, don't spill a drop of that stuff. It's so, don't spill it.
Don't spill it, don't waste it. But yeah, I saw, as you were saying that, and I hope everybody kind of feels it too, like step into a moment, right? Like step in. So I stepped into his shoes, and I actually felt, and it's so weird that you just kind of took me through that whole experience, because I felt like I was there in that moment, imagining what it would be like to distill this. I don't know the process for moonshine. I could only imagine what it kind of looks like, but I could see him looking at what he was putting together. And one of the things I do know is, when anybody ever cooks or makes anything for us, they always do it from a place of love, right? And what I felt there was just that love for wanting to give and be more, right? And I think we're all there. We're all there sitting in, living in, being more, and just stepping into his shoes and seeing all of that. It's like, wow, right? And you're right. He didn't have the modern conveniences that we have today. There was no heating system in the farm. Like, you had to go pick your eggs in the morning if you wanted eggs for breakfast, right? So yeah, just kind of stepping into that. Wow,
I'm seeing your grandfather make this moonshine too, and this whole love of food. And I think, when I think about what's missing, or what we can do for people is, we can make things for other people. And so, I'm very tactile. I like to do art. Actually, this little guy behind me, I made that. I just went out to the beach, collected some sticks, and painted them. Like that's what I did. And people
Nice.
always comment on it, but to me, that's very, very organic. And not this year, but the year before, I made blankets for all of my nieces and my sister for Christmas. And I actually watched a YouTube video to learn how to hand knit, like with my hands. And I just, now, like when they feel cold, they're going to put a warm blanket on them and they're going to think of me. And my thought is, one day I will die and that blanket will mean a little bit more than it does today to them. But what are the things that we make with love? And it doesn't have to be so extravagant art or a blanket, but a handwritten note. The art of the handwritten note is so lost these days. I actually just ordered a bunch of cards to send some out this week because I know, this is the time that people need to hear a message. This is the time that people, just writing the message yourself, you're kind of writing what you need to hear as well. So you're writing to your friends or to your family, but you're also sending that message inside of yourself. So, that would be my invitation is, who needs some help right now? Do you need some help? Reach out to someone if you do. Just talk about how you're feeling. It's completely normal. Bring joy by thinking about joy in your life, but also reaching out with gifts of love. And gifts of love can be anything that makes sense to you, but don't get so caught up in, oh my God, I need to make a blanket. No. Just write a thank you card. Write a thank you card.
No, I love that. And so here's the other thing that happens too, is when you express your feelings, your thoughts of others, there's a joy that comes from it for you, right? Like the best way to get out of funk is to give somebody some love. Like, if you want to feel immediately better, just share something with somebody. Mm-hmm. And you're right. Yes. One of the things my wife does when I go away is she puts these little notes in my luggage. It's funny that you talk about these handwritten notes, right? And she puts these little notes in my luggage, and she's like, "Whatever you do, don't open them until certain dates, right? Because she wants to give me a message while I'm away." And can I tell you, it lights me up every time I pull out one of these notes. And I still have them. I still keep them. I keep them as keepsakes because they're so precious, right? Like you don't understand the power of the written word. It's something that's been, I think, lost a little bit with, all the technology that we have and being able to text and do these things. But when you write a note, like you actually write with, make sure it's legible, right? Mm-hmm. But when you write these notes, there's something that comes from it. The process of creating a note, is for both the reader and the writer.
Yeah.
So it sounds like there's a little bit of homework in there for some of you today. Go share some love with some people, write a note, or even stop by and just check in on the people around you.
Yeah, now's the time to do the check-ins. Now's the time.
Yeah,
it really is.
Now's the time, because there's an energy that's out there that just, if you can see it, right? You can see it on people's faces. You can see the way they carry themselves, and sometimes all it takes is just a conversation to get them out of it. So, And then we're lucky enough that we have each other, that we can keep talking about this stuff and we can lift up ourselves. But, sometimes people don't have that support system. So just offer it. Right.
Yeah. And I think the other invitation is check your rituals, check your morning. Like, what do you do in the morning? What do you do first thing? If you can add in a quick, 5-minute meditation, if you could, just a quick walk around the block, anything that gets you moving or being still and present are also two activities that will really activate the best in you. And this is the time when it's the hardest, right? It's the hardest time to do these things, but that's exactly when you want to do it. And, the question that is a great question to ask yourself is, what action can I take, decision can I make in this moment to create the greatest net value? And that question activates me to most likely do the opposite of what I want to do right now, right? So
which
you
is
want some
curl
extra,
up underneath,
yeah,
curl up
underneath a
underneath the
cozy
blanket and just
blanket.
hide.
Exactly. No, that's not what we want to do. That's not what we
No.
do.
So before I know we're almost at time. It's unbelievable how quickly these conversations go. But we do have the official link for our masterclass that is happening on February the 2nd, Groundhog's Day, where we're going to go into a lot more detail from what we're talking about today and really talking about the things that are holding you back. We're going to talk about 5 ways your New Year's resolutions are failing you and why they're failing you. And a lot of this has to do with just some neuroscience, neuro-linguistic programming that's happening. So we're going to walk through all of that. So there's going to be a link that's going to list below in my profile. And I believe Heather, yours is going to be updated in a moment with the link to the masterclass as well. It's February 2nd between 12 and 1 p.m. It's going to be different from our first masterclass. We're taking it and elevating to a whole new level, but we can guarantee you're going to have a good time. You're going to walk away with some really great information and great strategies in terms of making 2023 the best year ever. So we're really excited to put this together for you. Just click on the link and register. It's simple. So simple.
And invite some people, right? This is a great lunch and learn type of activity. We did it over lunch so that people can join us for that time period. If you've got coworkers that hey, we've got an amazing year that we want to create, and you want to create that support system for yourself, that's who you want to invite to this as well. So the more the merrier. We can't wait to have you there, and we love the long form because we've got so much to share and teach. So please sign up. And John, you're going to put in the link, right?
Yes, absolutely. Perfect. So thank you. I can't believe we're already at time, but everybody have an amazing Wednesday. We'll be back on Friday. So happy to be back. All right. Have a great day, everybody.